Let's dive into a really powerful story from some ancient texts. It's a story about where idolatry really began and the rise of, well, one of history's very first tyrants. It makes you ask a pretty tough question. How could a world that was just given a fresh start fall back into darkness so quickly? The source material kicks things off with this exact question. And honestly, it's the big idea we're going to be digging into. This pattern might be ancient, but does it feel a little familiar? Let's see what this story has to tell us.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're in the world right after the Great Flood. This was supposed to be a total reset, right? A clean slate for humanity. But for the prophet Noah, our source tells us it actually became a time of really deep, profound sorrow. And this number, 350, is kind of staggering when you really think about it. According to the source, Noah lived for 350 years after the flood. I mean, can you imagine that? That's enough time to watch 10 generations of your own descendants grow up. And this is what was breaking his heart. He tried his best to preach, to guide them, but he was watching this tragic replay of history happen right before his eyes. He saw the exact same behaviors that led to the flood in the first place start to creep back in, and among his own family.
So eventually a split happens. You can see the two groups here. One group, with Noah and his sons, they stayed put and kept trying to do their work. But another group, well, they wanted to get away from that influence, to, as the source says, work in the dark. So they journeyed west to a land called Shinar. And it's in that group that a brand new kind of leader is about to emerge.
And this is where we meet him, the rebel king. This is the guy who rose to power in Shinar, and he came to define this whole new era of rebellion. His name would become basically a synonym for tyranny and for defying God.
And that king's name? Nimrod. Now get this, according to historians cited in the source, that name is no accident. It comes right from the Hebrew word marad, which literally means he rebelled. So his very identity, his name, is tied to this act of defiance.
And when you read the descriptions of this guy, wow, they are absolutely chilling. Historians quoted in our text, they do not hold back. They paint this picture of a brutal, power-hungry figure who wasn't just a hunter of animals, but a hunter of the children of men. He built his power through violence and fear.
And here it is, his rallying cry. This wasn't some subtle suggestion, this was a loud, direct command. He was calling for a total break from the faith of his ancestors, which was represented by Shem, and he demanded absolute loyalty to his own new system, what he called his institutes.
So, what exactly were these institutes? Well, it wasn't just random chaos. The source describes it as a really deliberate, calculated strategy. It was basically a playbook for seizing total control, not just over people's bodies, but over their hearts and minds too.
So this was his big goal, right? To systematically tear down people's belief in a higher power. But how on earth do you even do that? Well, the text actually lays out a pretty clear 4-step plan. And this is where the strategy is so clever. It's a gradual process. Step 1, he doesn't say God doesn't exist. No, he just makes him seem irrelevant, kind of unimportant. Step 2, he appeals to human pride. He tells people, hey, all your success, that was all you. You don't owe thanks to anyone. Step 3, he gives them new heroes to look up to, powerful conquerors. And then, the final move, he puts himself at the very top of that new pyramid of gods. And all of this leads to the end game, the ultimate goal of Nimrod's whole project, the absolute peak of his rebellion, flipping the entire divine order completely upside down. And here it is, the single most important idea in his whole system. According to our source, this is the fundamental principle. It's a simple idea, but it's incredibly audacious. Man is now above God. Humanity is the master of its own destiny, its own divinity.
This was the grand finale, the ultimate act of defiance. He didn't just say he was a god, he built the stage for it. The historian Josephus, who's cited in our source, says Nimrod literally constructed a throne of cedar on a high tower, a physical copy of God's throne, making his claim visible for everyone to see. So the source material kind of leaves us with this big question. Why was this new religion so appealing? Why did it spread like wildfire? And that really brings us full circle. When you look at this ancient playbook for tyranny, you just have to ask, what does it tell us about the patterns of power and ego we still see all around us today? Maybe the methods have changed a bit, but has the motivation really changed at all?